Hi guys and welcome to this episode of the Work Knits podcast. As we have some new joiners over the last month or so, I thought I'd give a quick introduction. My name is Lauren and I'm coming to you from the southwest of England in the United Kingdom, where I've just moved back to our house after a period of lots of travel and turbulence. So for longer term viewers, you'll be relieved to see me in roughly the same setup as I was before, and this will now be a far more consistent setup for these podcast episodes. A quick bit of admin from the last podcast episode. I had promised a couple of viewers in the comments that I would start to be more transparent on my pricing of different projects. And in the last episode, I had actually recorded a whole section on pricing, and in the editing process, I managed to accidentally cut that out. So when I post the video, I did include the cost and total cost of each project down in the description box below, which I will continue to do when I finish a project. I won't tend to do it so much on ongoing projects. However, starting from this episode, just to kind of get the ball rolling on it, I will start to give you a bit of an idea of cost as I'm talking about each project. So I hope that's helpful. And the other thing is to say that I have got a fairly standard structure to today's podcast episode. We're going to cover some finished objects, half finished objects, works in progress, knitting plans. I've got one or two acquisitions, although funnily enough, they were very unintentional, and I'll come on to more of that later. And then I'm also just going to have a quick few announcements about some design based stuff if people are interested, and then also regarding this room and house renovations again if people are interested. So quite a lot to talk about today. I'm very excited. Grab a drink, something to snack on if you're interested. I've got a cup of like a fruity berry tea here with me, but get cozy. I'm hoping today's going to be a nice chilled episode with hopefully some interesting knits to share with you. So before we get into finished objects, a quick note on what I'm wearing. This was a finished object in the last episode, and this is the Gallant Sweater Mohair edition by Kadri. However, I haven't knit it in mohair. I've knit this in Isaiah Highland wool in the colourway Rhubarb, and as mentioned in the description box of the last episode, this was a really fun and affordable knit for me. So I've already knit one of these sweaters. I knit that in Wee County Yarns Kinross 4-ply, which is approximately £7 a skein, and I used 4 skeins to make that one. And the Kinross really expanded horizontally and shrunk up vertically. So I knew I wanted to make one in a yarn that didn't quite behave that way. I love that version. It's like cashmere, it's gorgeous, and I wear it all the time. But I wanted one, as I say, that would not kind of shrink and adjust in quite the same way. This Isaiah Highland wool has done exactly that. This is a much lighter feeling sweater than the other version. I made this in this size medium, and it fits with a really nice amount of ease. I used 3 balls of Isaiah Highland wool, which here in the UK you can get for just under £6.50, I believe. So this jumper was just under £20, and I wear this all the time. It's no surprise I've thrown it on today. It looks fantastic with a pair of dark blue jeans, pair of boots, pair of sneakers, whatever you like. Really, really love it, and it's just such a good layering piece and really, really good for kind of temperature control. So if you're someone that suffers a little bit from fluctuating temperature, particularly around these transitions of seasons, this might be a really, really good one for you. My first finished object this week is one that has been this has been a massive product knit. I love the finished result. I really wanted to finish it and I wanted to do a good job, but I've really, really not enjoyed the process, and unfortunately it's been something that has taken a lot of time. Like, I've spent a huge amount of time knitting it, not because I've been dragging my heels, it's just taken a lot of time. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about a still slightly damp, because it's blocking, Monday suit. This is obviously a baby gift knit for a friend who's just had a baby. I have knit this up in King Cole DK Pricewise in the colourway Caramel. Slightly odd name because it's really not a caramel colour. I'd call this more of like a taupe. So this was This yarn I think was about £2.35 a ball, and I used 1.5 balls. It's very cost effective, and these really cute buttons were like 10p a button, and I needed 9. I modified this pattern a lot. 9 is not the recommended number for the size that I knit, but there we go. And I think the two go beautifully together, so I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with the proportions of it, given how much I've modified it. I'm a little bit worried that it might not fit the baby, or by the time this dries and I get it in the post and it gets to them, the weather will have changed or the baby will have grown. I don't know. They've got the most gorgeous baby girl. She is very tall. So yeah, fingers crossed this fits. What did I do to modify this? So I initially cast on the recommended needle size, which is 2.5 for ribbing and 3mm for the main body. I cast on the 0 to 6 month size. I had swatched. I thought I'd hit gauge, even though the yarn I was using was slightly thicker than what Petite Knit used in the original sample. The neck was just tiny, like it wouldn't have even fit on a doll, like it was so small. Now I don't have a child of my own, but I just knew that was not going to work. So I went up needle sizes, so I went up ribbing on 3mm needles and the main body on 3.25, and I cast on neckline for the 6 to 9 month size, because I figured a bigger neckline was better than a neckline that was too small. And then I started knitting the kind of raglan top half, and I switched to knitting the 2 to 4 month size. I still didn't go down to 0 to 6 months, I thought it was going to be too small. But yeah, so I knit the 2 to 4 month size down to here. I then knit the body in accordance to the 2 to 4 month size, with the only exception being that I did not continue the body. It might end up the length they've prescribed, but there was kind of a length measurement being given and a number of buttonholes. The number of buttonholes were worked every X number of rows. I got to 9 and thought that was about right. And then I just whipped up the legs and the arms in using magic loop, kind of as prescribed really. So only a couple of modifications, but they could have gone quite seriously wrong. My rib on my cuffs of my legs, I think one cuff is ever so slightly, like it's 1 row longer than the other. Classic, but I don't think the baby will mind. But yeah, I love the finished product. I think the colour combination of the buttons with the main colour looks gorgeous. I think the kind of weight of this is lovely. But I just really didn't enjoy knitting it, so that's a bit of a shame, because I tend to want to love knitting my gift knits. I just think you're knitting in all that love. But hey. So that's my first finished object, guys. But what I would say is a lot of these baby knits, I think, new parents, maybe if they're not knitters or they're not people who have a lot of time on their hands, particularly with a newborn, having a yarn that is machine washable, easy to care for is really important. And a lot of baby clothes now are getting passed from different families, friends, so things definitely are being kind of reused and recycled, and for me that justified using a yarn that traditionally may not be seen as so good for the environment. I think this is going to get so much wear and it's going to be passed between so many different families for use that I think it was worth it. And price-wise makes the project really, really affordable. So that was my yarn choices there. That is not, however, my only finished object today. I also have a half-finished object. So last episode, given I had 3 finished sweaters, I obviously didn't have that many whips. And I spoke a little bit about some future knitting plans. And one of those, I believe, was the Field Mittens by Camilla Vad, which, not throwing any shade, just my opinion, they're not mittens, they're hand warmers, but I love them. So this week I cast off my first one of my Field Mittens. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it in this light. I only did 1 repeat of the grain pattern. I didn't then go on to repeat it up here. So I kind of winged all of this bit, and I didn't do ribbing on the thumb. I just picked up the live stitches, knit 1 round and then cast off. And then up on my rib, up on the fingers, I did what has now become a bit of a classic of mine, I do 1 round of knit stitches after the rib before binding off. Just makes that bind off stand out and I think look really neat. I wish I'd done the same on the cuff when I started. Now, these are a beautiful weight. These are knit in Filcolana Pernilla in the colourway Marzipan. Got beautiful variegation in this particular ball. They are the perfect weight. I knit them on 3mm needles. I would, however, just say that this set of grain stitches, they fit. They're just a bit of a wiggle to get off, which is why I'm not going to put this on to show you, because I'll then spend a couple of minutes trying to take it off. Because the grains have got actually negative ease and not very much given them, it's just a bit awkward to then get them over my hand, but at the same time I wouldn't have wanted to knit them any looser or on any bigger needle because I think that would affect the shape of the mitten. So some pros and cons there, but I really think this grain design is absolutely stunning. The texture's just gorgeous, and the way that she's worded a lot of the pattern around this theme of nurture and growth and stuff, it's just beautiful. It's like, it's not just a texture that she's inserted onto a pattern, it's actually like a whole kind of ethos behind the design, and I think that's really lovely. So I did really enjoy knitting this. The grains took me a while, but once I got through those, it was a really, really quick knit. So I'm really looking forward to casting on my second one. I really want to take these mittens with me to Edinburgh in March, and I actually really want the second one done and all the ends woven in, etc. by the next episode. So we could have a full finished object, a full pair. And at the moment I've only broken into 1 ball so far. I think I might get the second one out of that same ball. So that'd be 1 50-gram ball of Filcolana Pernilla, which I think I managed to grab for £3.35, £3.45, something like that. It's definitely under £4. So a very, very affordable project, and yeah, I'll let you know if I end up having to break into a second ball of it. I do have 2 balls, but I'm hoping just to use 1. So that is my half finished object for this week. Now you'll be pleased to know there has been some movement on the whips front as well, which is good because there's been a couple of whips that have been a bit slow to move. Now one that has been slow moving, and I wish I'd done a little bit more on, is this sock. This is a Tale of Morrocco sock. I described this in detail in my last episode, and a couple of thoughts on the name of the pattern. So please do check out my last episode if you're interested in more details, but in a high level summary, I have finished the colour work on the cuff. I was about halfway down here, and then I have started on the heel flap. Now I'm going to whiz through the heel flap probably this afternoon during a meeting, and then I would really, really like to try and get this first sock finished this weekend. Very unusual for me to have 2 whips on the go that are things that are come in pairs, because I'm really bad with doing the second one. I've got so many one sock, odd sock projects, but I'm really, really loving the colour work and the Latvian braid details, etc. on these socks, and I think colour work socks are just my thing, at least they are at the moment. So I'm quite confident I will get both done. These are being knit in an unknown, I don't know what this skein is, as in I don't know the brand. I know it's a BFL nylon merino sock base, undyed, and then the main colour, and it's not showing up very well on camera, but this is a beautiful kind of sunset autumnal pinky variegated skein of Malabrigo sock yarn, Ultimate Sock, in the colourway Zinnias. Would highly recommend if you're a pinky orange person. This is my jam. As I say, it's not showing up correctly with my lighting here, but I love it, it's beautiful. I think this skein was £16, and then the unbleached white I want to say was closer to 8. So I won't use the whole I think it was 100-gram skein of the Malabrigo. I will, or maybe even 50, but I won't use all of this by any means. I'll probably end up getting 2 pairs of socks out of this. So if we say if we halve the cost of this, £8, I probably will use all of this. So these are probably going to be about £16 socks total, which is a reasonably chunky amount for a pair of socks, but for kind of a beautiful colourwork design and for a pair that I'm going to really love, I'm happy to have spent that money, particularly given the ethos behind Malabrigo yarn. So happy days with this project, guys. But as I say, I wish I'd done a little bit more. So what have I been working on? In the last couple of days, you'll be very pleased to know, I finally picked up my second version of the Kostner Scarf by Erin Jensen. This is published in Lane Publishing, 52 Weeks of Scarves. And I knit a almost full-size version for my father-in-law for Christmas. And I did that in BC Garn Loch Lomond. Very different vibe to this. I have drastically decreased the width of the pattern, and I am also kind of, if I'm honest, making up my own disbursement of the stripes and whatever. So what am I knitting this in? I'm knitting this in Adriafil Cubicol, in the colour 86, which I think is called like bright orange. They advertise this as a chunky weight yarn, but because it's got a lot of air in it, I think you can knit it down to kind of more of a worsted weight. This pattern is knit upon 5mm needles, so I think it works. Now, I saw this and thought this was a very affordable alternative to a mohair or a Surrey alpaca. This is £6.50 for a 50-gram ball, and the yarn construction is 40% acrylic, 36% alpaca, 14% wool and 10% polyamide. But it has got that kind of woolly alpaca feel, and this scarf is just knitting up beautifully. So I'm really, really pleased with this, and I think if you are kind of looking to make maybe a chunkier jumper, this could be a really good option. It comes in lots of different colours. And as I say, £6.50 a ball. I bought 3 of these. I'm almost through my first one. So I think I will get 5 sections out of the first one, if I'm lucky. So we're looking at roughly a 15 section scarf with the 3 balls. As I say, I'm almost a third of the way through, and I'm breaking this up with a much, much thinner, lighter gauge yarn that I'm still knitting on 5mm needles. And this is Rowan Alpaca Classic. It's got like a blown construction, and this is the colourway Midnight. It's beautiful. So even though they're different gauges, it's actually working out fine. I was a little bit worried there'd be some kind of dipping at the edge where the gauge changes for these stripes, but they're so thin, I think it's fine. And the idea with this is it's just going to be like a loop around my neck and let it hang down kind of scarf, kind of look. Again, I'd love to have this ready for my trip to Edinburgh in March. I think this will look really classy, really beautiful with like kind of a dark wool coat. But yeah, it's blowing out a little bit on camera, but it is very bright, but I kind of love that bit of zing. So last time I showed this to you, I had done about 2 sections. So I've knit a section and a half in the last couple of evenings just whilst on phone calls, and in and around another project. Now this has been another labour of love. The minute the Monday suit was done, I cast on my test knit for Contour Knit. I am absolutely loving this design. The texture is just so beautiful and tactile, and like the feel in your hands. Guys, I wish you could like feel this through the camera. The only like but to it is, and this is nothing to do with the pattern, this is just a personal knitting preference, I love the look and the feel of heavily textured items. I just don't enjoy knitting them. So I just find I can't like switch off and relax, because, you know, the positioning of the pattern changes, and I mean, you do get some rest, but the rows where you do cabling in this particular design, that row takes me a long time. Anyway, what am I talking about? It's Contour Knit's Strandhill Slipover. She's doing a test knit for both the slipover version and the collar version. And I was lucky enough to be selected, and I really need to get a wiggle on. So I basically need to complete this during the best part of February. She's given us plenty of time, it's just I was a bit delayed starting because of the gift knit. And here is where I'm up to. Isn't it gorgeous, guys? She's really inspired by like mountains and waves and the sea and the outdoors, and I'm so here for it. I just love it. So this is the back panel that I'm currently working, and the fabric, this is just like, I'm gonna be putting this in my face. I'm gonna be wearing this all the time when it's done, because I am using such a gorgeous combination of yarns. This here is Filcolana Arwetta in this kind of oatmeal-y colour, and this is Fyberspates Cumulus, which is their Surrey Alpaca base in the colourway Natural. And the two together, there's a kind of a silkiness, a bit of fluffiness. I'm loving it. I'm having a bit of a neutrals and then very bright, like complete opposite start to the year. But that's okay by me. I needed a few more neutrals in my wardrobe, so I'm pleased I've done that. The back is actually equally as lovely as the front, I think. This is quite a reversible design. I think the back's really gorgeous as well. So I have finished the kind of increasing section and I'm now just knitting straight. So I think I can now kind of crack on with this a little bit more. But yeah, this has been quite a lot of knitting, quite a lot of time spent kind of getting this right. I did do a bit of a restart. That was on me, not on the pattern. And we've got a really nice test knit group. So we're all kind of chatting away and figuring things out as we go, which is fantastic. So yeah, that has been another whip on my needles. So in 2 weeks, there has been a decent amount of knitting, but I guess I'm knitting lots of stuff on a reasonably fine gauge, kind of 3mm needles, 3.5, 2.5 for those socks. And then it's only really the Kostner Scarf that's on chunkier needles. I probably owe you some information on pricing for this. I need to go away and look that up because I bought these yarns whilst I was in Prague. So cost-wise, I haven't done the conversion quite. I mean, I did it at the time, but I don't have it like fixed in my brain. So let me price this up probably for our next episode, because it is a really beautiful combination and one I could really recommend. I know that the Filcolana Arwetta is a really good price. I don't know what the price point is on the Cumulus, but it's worth it for the gorgeous feeling. So yeah. So I think that leads us quite nicely onto some future knitting plans, which kind of links to acquisitions, and some of the acquisitions kind of slightly link to some kind of interesting updates on things that I might be kind of doing in and around the podcast over the next few weeks. So I mentioned in the last episode that I wanted to cast on the Downtown hoodie by Tori Yu, which looks like this. I know my camera tends to make this go all like fuzzy, but beautiful. This is a DK weight pattern, and as I think I mentioned in the last episode, I'm going to use this hot pink yarn for the main part, but what I really needed was a contrast colour. And what I've done is, because that pink is a sustainable recycled acrylic, I thought I did have a dark blue DK weight yarn, but it's a 100% wool, very, very sheepy rustic wool. And I just did not think the two would go together. So I picked up a skein of Hayfield Bonus DK, extra value, which is 100 grams machine washable, also acrylic. This one unfortunately is not recycled, in the shade navy. So I'll use this just for literally like the cast on edge, the I-cord little toggle things down the front, maybe like the cast offs on the cuffs and the hem, and then I'll use the rest of this for a baby knit when I next have a baby to knit for. So that was my first acquisition. I think this was £2.35, £2.65, something like that. My other acquisition, so that one was quite an intentional acquisition, but you know, a relatively small one. I've been quite tame. I'll explain why in a moment. My other acquisition was actually linked to, well, let me show you it first. So my other acquisition was a ball of Shawley, which is a gradient fade yarn from Cedar, which is a kind of British yarn producer from West Yorkshire. You get about 450 metres per 100 grams. And this is the shade Peony, so it kind of like fades from different colours. The composition is 80% acrylic, 10% wool, 10% alpaca. Now this was kind of like a rush purchase, and basically the story behind this is I wasn't even looking for yarn, but I went into a store to buy some haberdashery bits for a renovation project I'm doing on our primary bedroom, which is next door. I have been reupholstering a kind of bench footstool thing for the end of our bed, and I purchased the wrong number of self-cover buttons, and I needed to purchase 2 more. And their card machine minimum meant I didn't have any cash on me, so I had to purchase something else in order to reach the card machine minimum. And this was the first thing I grabbed because I was looking for something that I thought was not an acrylic yarn from their selection. As it turns out, this is majoritively acrylic, which is a bit of a shame. Not generally speaking, but just in this instance, I wanted something that wasn't acrylic. But yeah, I kind of just grabbed this. I think this actually was about £8, which was way more than I needed to spend to reach the minimum, but it was one of those things I was in a really big rush. I do quite like it, and my idea that for what I'm going to do with this is I've got a cone of some Holst Garn super soft 2-ply jumper weight yarn in like their ecru shade, like they're white, and I think I'm going to cast on a blanket and I'll do flea stitches in this colour. So it'll probably be like a lap blanket size, but that's my idea, I think. So that's my second acquisition. The third thing that has come into my stash in the last couple of weeks was a gift, completely unexpected and very exciting. I've been gifted an entire fleece. It's Swaledale fleece, and I believe the person who gifted it to me picked this one up for £10. The fleece is completely unprocessed, uncleaned at the moment. So I obviously never expected to have this as a thing for the podcast episode. I have been doing a little bit of spinning, not very much. I haven't picked it up since the last episode and I need to. I'm also not particularly proficient, and I'm doing it on a drop spindle, which takes a little bit longer because I'm doing the stop and park method compared to, for example, those who have a wheel. So it would take me quite a long time to spin up a whole fleece on a drop spindle. I also don't have all the kit to clean it and card it, etc. So I am thinking I might try and get this sent off to a local wool mill. There's a couple near me, very, very lucky. I will see if any of them will process a single fleece, and if they will, I'm going to get this processed into either some fingering or lace weight yarn. I will then probably have more than I will ever need, so I will keep you updated with what I do with that process. I don't know if I will chat to some local hand dyers and see if anyone would be interested in hand dyeing it for me. I don't know, there's quite a few options here, guys, but there's also the possibility that I will have so much that I would be open to gifting some or selling some via my Instagram. So let's see. That's very, very exciting. Talking of gifting things, I have been running the Invest in Yourself make along. Now, lots of you were so excited by this idea before Christmas, and so we got started, and then I think, a bit like me with multiple projects, people probably didn't have quite the mojo they thought they would in January, which is totally okay. But there have been some people participating, so if you have been tagging the Invest in Yourself make along over on Instagram and tagging me, thank you so much for participating. I will be drawing a winner today, and I will put that on screen here. Please reach out to me on Instagram if you are the winner, and we will sort out a prize for you based on your preferences, what you like to knit or make with, and I will get that sent out to you. But thank you so much for playing along, so to speak, and I really hope that for anyone who didn't post a picture into the make along over on Instagram, I really, really hope you've had a really good January, kind of really taking the time to knit what you enjoy. I think it's so important. Now, there have been a whole group of people who have been doing a very different kind of make along with me, and that is my lovely test knitters who have been test knitting my new collar design for me. This is a collar that I knit up last year, and I just drafted it to kind of learn a little bit, play a little bit, and when I showed it in my Everything I Knit video, lots of people said, please, can we have a pattern for this? This is knit up in worsted weight yarn. I've actually knit this in Kate Davies Ard tier. I used 4 skeins to knit this. They are 50 gram skeins and you get 65 meters per skein. It's a very, very dense worsted weight yarn, but it has a beautiful drape. If you would be interested in making one of these when the pattern gets released, I'll tell you when that's happening in just a moment, but if you'd be interested in knitting one for yourself, the Kate Davies Ard tier yarn is on sale online at the moment. It is on sale at Wool Warehouse, so if you're in the UK, then that might be a good option for you. But my test knit has been really, really hard at work. I asked them if they would be able to get this test knit finished by the 7th of February. Not too tight a deadline, this is a pretty quick knit, but nonetheless, definitely not too much time to hang around. And they have absolutely excelled in helping me out on that front. So this pattern is going to be ready to launch on the Friday the 9th of February next week. So I am super excited. I just need to get some much nicer pictures of this and then we should be ready to go. I'm just getting feedback from the last couple of testers. But a huge thank you to them. If you're someone that would be interested in test knitting for me in the future, do feel free to drop me a line on Instagram. It's kind of really handy to have a kind of pool of people that I know might be interested. Obviously, people can say no or yes on a design by design basis, but really handy to have a kind of pool that I can go to directly if I'm struggling to get hold of testers. So yes, here we go. This collar is going to be called the Melange collar. Melange means a varied mixture, and I think for me, I could just see this collar being knit up in so many different colours, in so many different yarns, in so many different yarn combinations. Some people might even put mohair in the mix. Some people might knit it up in something like Adriafil. And I also thought I could just see it with people wearing it with all sorts of different outfits. So a varied mixture is a slightly ironic name for a very simple, classic design, and yet hopefully we get such a mixture of different versions coming out. So that is my little bit of design news. Now, talking of things coming out in the next couple of weeks, I promised in the last episode that I would not take up too much of your valuable time talking about my home renovation stuff here on this channel because I know that's not necessarily what you're here for. However, I think some people might be interested. So, as promised, I'm giving you a heads up that my YouTube channel for my home renovation stuff is going to be launching next week. Now I need to set up the page. It won't have a video on it yet, but I need to set up the page today basically, or tomorrow, and I will put a link to that page down below in the description box. Now if you would be so kind as to help me out with a little subscribe to get me started, or if indeed you're going to be interested in watching videos, do go over and check it out. The first video will be launching next week, and it will be basically a video talking about the refresh of this room, which is super exciting. There should also be a video coming in quite quick succession all about our primary bedroom and all the different DIY projects in there. And the general format of the channel will be, there'll be kind of 3 types of videos. So there'll be videos that kind of show you the finished result in a room and give you a bit of a tour, but there'll also be videos that are slightly more vlog style, which show you kind of behind the scenes on all the different DIY projects. And then occasionally there'll be how-to videos. So if there's a specific thing that I'm doing that I think I was struggling to find a video on how to do it, then I will do my best to make one to share that with all of you. And some of those how-tos will be sewing projects. So if you're interested in kind of interior sewing projects, then that might be something you want to check out. I will maybe mention in passing that I've been renovating X room in these episodes going forwards, but I won't be plugging my YouTube channel, my other YouTube channel here going forwards. But as it is launching this week, I just thought I'd let you know. I'll also link my Instagram down below as well. But as I say, these are just things that I'm starting out. It's a very, very different format to these podcasts, so it's all a big learning curve. But I'm very grateful for any support anyone can give as I start out and yeah, have a go. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it from me today. I do have another couple of future knitting plans, but I think I'll probably share those in stories over on Insta and in the next episode, because I'm just not quite sure if I'll have the yarn in time, so I kind of don't want to commit, and I don't really want to buy new yarn, but it's going to be a bit of a process. Oh, basically I want to knit the Awilda sweater by Boiler Knitworks. So yeah, I need to figure out a yarn combination for that. But yeah, aside from that, I hope you're all well. I will be back in 2 weeks' time, but in the meantime, as I say, I'll be busy over on my home renovation account, and I look forward to seeing you with many, many more finished objects in a couple of weeks' time. Have a good week, stay safe, happy knitting, bye.